down on the floor. There was all, and it was smelling the place. And I was so weak I couldn't climb up to my bunk. And after a few days, I was diagnosed that I got typhus, and I was taken to the isolation barrack. That was like heaven and earth. It was really, comparatively in Auschwitz standard, was a good place. So I recovered very quickly. By the time as they diagnosed it, I was already past the crisis. I was already away of the recovery, and I recovered 100%. So far that in the isolation ward in the hospital, each of us had an individual bed with beddings, and the food was, and it was warm, it was winter, that was already December, it was winter, and I really recovered, and I felt good, and I thought I've been going to get together strength, and I survived. And I stayed in the hospital. The doctor said to me, I was making myself useful to the doctors, to distributing, acting as a kind of a nurse, distributing the medications, because there was plenty of medication in Auschwitz. There's already the camp. And the doctor said, look, you are 100% all right, you can go back to the camp. I said, but you can let me stay here? He said, yes, if you want to stay here, stay here. We had no more transports came to Auschwitz, and even the hospital was already was not so active. There was not so many, no pressure on the hospital admittance. So they were quite happy to keep me. I'm finishing. I know you are getting nervous. No. So what happened? One day the doctor said to me, you know, there came a request from the SS that they checked your blood, and your blood is very good. They want to know whether you are willing to give 100 centiliters of blood, so 1/10 of a liter, for serum for German soldiers. So I said, they asked me whether I'm willing to, you must show they should die. I said, no, that's not a question. You've got time. They ask you whether you want to give, but I might advise you not to refuse. So I said, okay, I don't refuse. Okay, I give blood. So they took blood from me, and they ordered that I should get double rations for a few days, and I forgot about it. It was not such a thing. And 2 weeks later comes a German officer in the camp and calls my name. I said, well, what's the guy? What do you want to be? He said, look, you have volunteered to give your blood to the German soldier. I'll give you a present. He brought me a long sausage, a long big sausage. This is a present from the SS to you. This is something, I'm making it illustration, that with all these terrible things that happened, there was also sometimes signs of almost human behavior. That's what I want to point out. I tell you another story. My friend, who is Baruch Hashem also survived and he comes from the same town. He was working in the kitchen, I mentioned it. And he told me the story that they had that film in the kitchen. Because in the kitchens were nearly everybody was there, because it was a good job to work in the kitchen. At least they got enough to eat. And they brought in their friends as well. In fact, that the Weitzner diners also worked in the kitchen there. The one who mentioned was blowing the shofar. He was also working with my brother, and his son was. His son is still alive. I remember him. And they had that film, and there was one SS man who was charged in the kitchen, and he went in and out of his job, whatever other jobs he had in the camp. And when he was not there in the kitchen, they used their coal chambers to put on that film quickly, one after the other. Everybody should have a chance to put on the film. It happened to be that he was standing in the gas chamber, in the coal chambers, putting with his film on, and the chef, they called him chef because he was the head of the kitchen. The chef came back, and he was looking for him. He was the foreman of the kitchen, that friend of mine. And where is the foreman? Nobody knows. Who is it? We don't know where he is. So he started looking for him, opened up the coal chamber. He was seeing him, he saw him in his film. He said, I thought he's going to beat me to death there on the spot. But he just shouted at me, what are you doing here? I said, he didn't speak, he speaks less German than I did. He said, ich bete, I'm praying, bete. I said, what are you praying? What are you praying for? So I'm praying that I would like to see my parents. So the German said to him, you know, you will see them. No, when you finish with your prayers, go back to work. That was a nas api darachateva, he called it. No? That's how it was.
Translate.
What? It was a miracle, but a miracle, natural miracle. Anyway, so as I was staying in that camp, in the hospital, yeah. Thank you. I was staying in the camp, and then started saying that Auschwitz is going to be evacuated because the Russians are coming. The Russians are on the way. The Russians are coming. And we got that was in January already, January 1945. And we got here at night. We heard already gunfire, and we knew that the Germans will be here. And I said to the doctor, who was very, very friendly with me, says, you know what? I want to get out of the hospital. Because I thought to be in the hospital, the Germans, when it comes to evacuation, they just kill everybody, all the patients are not going to leave them here. The best what you can hope for, they are going to take us away somewhere into Germany. I want to be in the camp. So my muzzle, I got out of the camp. I got new clothing, winter clothing was quite reasonable. New, not new, but warm, not clothing, but civilian clothing. Just had a bag. On the back there was a window of blue and white stripes. That's how you should see it. So we started marching the 18th of January. 18th of January, started marching towards. I just been out of the hospital. So for 7 weeks I was not walking. I was just in the hospital. I was not, and so I was in a good physical, but my legs, I don't think it would stand the walk. Nevertheless, I managed to walk a day and a night in one go. And the next morning, they said, then I just couldn't walk anymore. We were given a blanket to carry, and also a whole bread, a whole 1 kilo bread. We had seder lederach, and also a tin of something. I don't know. Never got that. The tin I threw it away because they wouldn't even give us a plastic bag to carry it. You just had to carry the 2 items under my 2 arms and the blanket on my back. The blanket, it was not very cold because when you walk, it was not very cold. And I dropped the blanket, then I dropped the tin. The bread I was holding on for dear life because that was very important. In the morning, the Germans said, those who cannot walk anymore should stand aside. So I said, this is the end. Very likely they are going to shoot us on the roadside. But I thought, I don't want to suffer more. But I couldn't walk. My legs were swollen, and I just couldn't put down my legs one after the other. It's just, anyway, they managed to, instead of, they said, we are going to have a rest in a camp here. There was a small camp, about, I think we went about 30-40 kilometers from here. We went by foot, and that's where we were resting. And by the time it was morning, it started getting morning light. I couldn't walk, and a German who was accompanying us. There was not an assessment from an elderly guy from the Wehrmacht, I remember. He started pushing me. So I said, you blow the cat, you stupid boy, can't you see we are here? Just push it. So he kept on pushing me, and I stopped. Kept on pushing me another few yards until I managed to get into the camp. I lay down on the first available bunk, and I fall asleep. I put my bread under my head, like Yaakov Avinu, and I fall asleep from the exhaustion. And I woke up 2 days, I think a day, it arrived in the morning, so the next morning I woke up. My breath has gone, so I was very upset about it. And the next day they said, look, we had a rest now, we are moving on after 2 days. that I didn't like the idea to moving on because I just had enough. I said, I'm not working anymore. So, and the Germans were, on that morning, they were so confused, they were running into the barracks, coming out of the barracks, and it was, I never seen the Germans, they are very disciplined, and they are not, well, they were like for some Tammuz, like they say it, you know. And I've decided there was a bunk bed which was very low on the bottom, was just about 10 centimeters, but I managed to squeeze in, and I went to the furthest end there, and I was waiting there. It was all quiet, the Germans moved away. After the same day, after the Germans left about midday, by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, just as it was start getting dark, people, because a lot of other people, they stayed behind somehow. The Russians are here. So I see the Russians are liberators coming in white sheets. They look like a kettle in what they wear in Yom Kippur. All of them, because it was a camouflage, white camouflage. And they come into the camp, and they said to us, "No, you are free." They saw us what we are. We are prisoners. They say, "Free. Have you got anything food with you? We are hungry." So I said to the Russians, "Sorry, you got the wrong address. We haven't got food here in the camp." Anyway, so that was the end of my. That's what I was liberated. 18th of January was my walk. In the same 18th of January, my wife, who was a young girl at that time, he was liberated in Budapest. The same day. That's what we are. Both of us are here. And Baruch Hashem, we got children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. Yeah, I can make a. I made a bracha in February.
So we talked about Abelesz and his wife was being living miracles, living nisim, and Jewish law dictates that if a miracle happens to you in a place, we have a blessing for everything. You make a blessing in the place that it happens to. So this is the place where a miracle happens to establish the mere fact that he survived. It's not often you get to hear this blessing, you don't hear it every day. But as we were talking about a few moments ago, what's it gone? About making a bracha, making a blessing, so we're just going to follow that through. So Mr. Abelesz will make the blessing of thanking the Almighty for creating a miracle for him in this place. And we will all answer Amen to that blessing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'osa li nes b'mokom hazeh. Amen. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.